For more than a year, every token built on Bittensor had a guaranteed seller leaning on it every single day. Miners earn tokens, miners sell tokens, price bleeds. Then a few weeks ago, on the biggest subnets, that seller got matched dollar for dollar. And TAO is still sitting around $200 like nothing happened. So, is the market asleep, or is the market right? I'm holding 30% of my original position here, already in profit, and by the end of this video, you'll know exactly why, and exactly where I'd load again. TAO trades around $200, down roughly 60% from the October 2025 top near 490. The AI narrative rotated away, sentiment is exhausted, and most buyers from the highs have capitulated or stopped watching. That's usually when I pay closer attention. Because while price went quiet, Bittensor shipped more structural change in 3 weeks than in the previous 6 months. And the most important number in this entire video, the one that decides if this thesis lives or dies, is not a price target. It's a ratio on a dashboard almost nobody opens. We'll get there. First, the flip. Here's the mechanic. Every subnet on Bittensor pays miners in its own token for useful work. Miners have electricity bills, so they sell. Since the dTAO upgrade, that constant sell pressure has been a headwind on every subnet token. The chain used to soften it indirectly, injecting emissions into liquidity pools. Helpful, but the headwind stayed. That changed. The chain now splits emissions 2 ways. One part still deepens the pool. The other part goes straight into buying the subnet's own token on the open market. And on many of the top subnets today, that buying covers 100% of miner emissions. Chutes, Targon, Nova, and Liam sit at 1.4 times coverage. The largest structural seller in the ecosystem now has a matching buyer, funded by the protocol's own inflation. Bittensor basically became a venture fund backing the winners on its own network. Now, straight with you, this is not universal. Minos sits at 0.8 coverage, Albedo at 0.7. The mechanism rewards leaders and exposes laggards, so subnet selection matters more now, not less. Stack the second supply force on top. Conviction went fully live in July. Holders can lock alpha tokens on-chain to prove long-term commitment, and locked alpha keeps earning staking rewards, so it's a supply sink that costs nothing in yield. A subnet's ownership can even be challenged once it's a year old, and challengers hold conviction worth at least 10% of staked alpha. Every lock is visible on-chain. So demand just got a structural bid, and supply just got a lock. Then the distribution rails arrived. Kraken began listing subnet alpha tokens directly. Chutes, Targon, Vanta, Score, Liam, Ridges, Hippias. Barry Silbert called it a very big deal. And when the man behind Grayscale says that publicly, I read positioning, not commentary. OKX unveiled an AI agent marketplace with Bittensor subnet APIs coming soon, and I stress coming soon, announced, not shipped. Even the boring stuff matters. The V431 tooling brought hardware wallet signing, multisig, and massive speed upgrades. Retail sees a software update. A fund sees the custody checklist getting checked. And the utility question critics lean on took a hit too. A 20 billion parameter model was pre-trained on Chutes for under $10 an hour of compute, on rented single GPUs across 2 continents plus consumer cards. Pre-training was supposed to be the part you couldn't do cheap. Zoom out and the macro tailwind is clear. Chinese models now handle roughly 58% of US company token usage on OpenRouter, up from under 10% at the start of 2025. No single model is winning, and in a commoditized inference market, value flows to the cheapest neutral compute layer. Same mining logic that gave Bitcoin $15 billion a year in hash rate. Apply that to intelligence, and you have the whole Bittensor bet in one sentence. So why is price still down here? That dashboard I mentioned. About 66% of all TAO is staked, but inside that stake, the rotation from the safe root position into subnet alphas climbed to roughly 32% and flatlined in April. 4 months, no movement. Capital hasn't voted yet. On-chain yields confirm the hesitation. The top-wrapped TAO pool on Ethereum pays around 60%, but holds only $2 million in liquidity. And fee income across those pools roughly halved in a month as volatility contracted. The fundamentals loaded the spring. The chart tells us if anyone pulls it. Weekly timeframe. Since 2024, TAO has respected a descending channel, the orange dotted lines on your screen, and the middle of that channel acts like a magnet, flipping between support and resistance. Two white descending trend lines also come down from the October 2025 top. The first broke in March. The second rejected price in April, May, and again in June. And that's the line I want reclaimed before trusting any new bull trend. Where are we now? Back below the middle of the channel, sitting inside a demand zone between $185 and $210, a region that printed bottoms before. My Fibonacci runs from $305 in June 2025 up to $489 in October. The 1618 Fibonacci extension at 227 was support, we lost it, and it now stacks with the mid-channel as the first real resistance. The 2618 Fib sits at 142. Price trades below the 55 and 100 exponential moving averages, so the burden of proof sits with the bulls. The Heikin-Ashi Relative Strength Index below tells its own story. The March high never reached overbought, stalling at the same level where the previous three rallies stalled before deeper corrections. Now it's approaching oversold, but hasn't tagged the depth of previous major bottoms yet. Coinglass shows price parked at the equilibrium between long and short liquidation leverage, a heavy long cluster at 190 and 170, and the densest short fuel stacked between 215 and 230. More fuel above than below, and markets love running the bigger pool. My execution, transparent as always. I accumulated in February inside my green box, average entry $160. De-risked at 305 and 365, keeping half. When June printed the first weekly close below the mid-channel, my invalidation level, I reduced another 20%. So I hold 30% of the original position, pure house money. And that's my long-term bag for the next sentiment wave. I'm not adding here. My strategic accumulation zone is the green box between 135 and 165, right where the 2618 Fib lives. If things get catastrophic, the 3618 Fib near $88 meets the channel bottom, though honestly, I would expect a leg up toward channel resistance first. For anyone flat with a multi-year horizon, in my honest opinion, this demand zone is where a disciplined dollar-cost average starts making sense. Targets on my stack: 300, 360, 490, 700, 970, 1300. Managed with a trailing structure. First target hit moves protection to entry, second target moves it to target 1, and so on. One condition sits above all of this. Bitcoin holds around 66,000, just above the weekly 200 simple moving average near 63,000. As long as Bitcoin doesn't lose 60,000, altcoin structure stays repairable. Lose it, and every level I gave you gets tested faster. My pivot point is that alpha stake ratio. If the buyback mechanism is real, that 32% plateau breaks upward and TAO reclaims 227, then the mid-channel, then hunts the short liquidity above. If the ratio stays flat, the news is priced in, the 190 cluster gets flushed, and thin liquidity opens the path into my green box. Either outcome hands me a plan. That's the point of doing this work. So, the thesis in 3 lines. The structural seller that suppressed Bittensor for a year now has a protocol-funded buyer against it. Supply is being locked while distribution expands through major exchanges, and price sits in a demand zone waiting for on-chain capital to actually rotate. After almost 20 videos on TAO, with good buys and good exits along the way, I've learned the market pays whoever positions before confirmation, not after. If this breakdown earned it, a like and subscribe doesn't cost you and helps the channel. And if you want to see this executed in real time, my exact zones, the weekly live strategy calls, the Sunday prep report, and my full portfolio tracking, that's what runs inside the Pro Capital Vault, my private Discord. Hit the join button below the video, use the link in the pinned comment, or scan the QR code on screen. Then sync your YouTube account to Discord, and the private channels unlock automatically. Now a question for the comments. Would you rather hold TAO itself or the subnet alphas? I read and reply everything. And watch my previous Bittensor video next. It covers the profit-taking framework that funded this position. Nothing here is financial advice, just my capital, my levels, and my reasoning. Manage your risk like it's your job. See you soon in the next one.